So, part two, just to carry on from where I was beforehand, because just the actually I ran out of battery and I just got cut out the last thing. So no big biggie there. So we're having these corruption trials, and we were looking at things like in Dunedin, where there's this culture of basically police corruption. A lot of these guys had cases, links to the Scott Watson case, the David Bain case, overlapping with each other. Background of those was the idea that there was corruption in human trafficking, but the suggestion that there was a mass drug ring going on, that this stuff was actually all being laundered through the exotic luxury car market and the exotic luxury yacht market. So then we turn around, and after all this is all poo-poo, remember the media saying, oh, no, that's not going on in New Zealand. Oh, no, there's no, there are no videos of bestiality and children occurring. You might even actually remember very clearly in Dunedin last year, there's a report about a very prominent New Zealander who they still haven't actually released a name, who was found with a video chopping up basically a dog being chopped up alive, along with methamphetamine and weapons. So that's again another little story that very got a little bit of a brief mention, but no follow-up, no real interest. We'll just move along, nothing to see here. Well, again, when we came up with the current police officer, whose name eludes me, but he was running for the position of chief policeman. He went from being a local cop in Murchison. Murchison's a little blink of your miss it kind of town, but it's a hub. So anything you want to go one way or another, you kind of to Nelson, you've got to go through that town. So he was there, not quite on the back walks, but not exactly where you'd expect to be if you're going to go in the fast track. And next thing you know, he's up the top. And not only that, he's now got luxury houses. He's got a firm that deals in luxury cars, and then it finds out that while he's running for this top job against another competitor, and it looks like a lot of the information that was leaked to the media about this guy and like go and have a closer look at this wasn't done like in the case of John Warburton out of the benevolence and warm fuzziness of the person or any genuine whistleblower. And this is about knocking the competition out, and that's what we should. And like again, very much like Epstein, Clinton. Everyone's going, oh no, the Clinton, the Democrats were going, oh, Democrats hiding out the pedos. Well, that was also going under the Pentagon, because that's the nature of blackmail. You don't just blackmail one side, you blackmail both sides. That's just logical sense. So the story now comes out that yes, this guy's been looking at child porn and bestiality porn, and the story kind of like, and then we have got this anti-sham fiasco. The thing is, what hasn't come out is about how does a police officer, even a senior police officer, afford to actually have that many expensive cars, expensive houses. And this is again with a look to a lot of the police officers that later on went to work for Terry Brown, who was a big swinging kingpin on undercrime in Christchurch, and he had lots of detectives working for him. Lots of them were actually had offices in the buildings of South Canterbury Finance. And I said to explain to you previously, South Canterbury Finance was originally set up by Humphrey Rolleston, who I name as linked to one of these mercenary companies that also had very far-right connections with the Christchurch sort of neo-Nazi movement in the 70s and the 80s, which I even mentioned Gun City in my book, which was a bestseller, and that was written like 10 years before the Christchurch shooting. So again, when I'm talking about the Christchurch, the Dunedin Pistol Club, the Rifle Club, I mentioned all of this stuff well in advance, and I wasn't even Selwyn Shanks from Coverfire was mentioning the fact that there was a ring of people running around selling guns, bought online, sold through pubs, and this was the time they went to committee saying, "Oh, do you think we should be allowed to sell weapons?" And Jacinda was involved and she said, "Oh no, I think that's okay." And then of course after the shooting, no press media attention on that fact, no press media attention on the series of detailed red flag failures where the same cops that have been named under the Lisa Goddard of the Royal Inquiry, basically same people, despite this, like they should be perfed out and basically stood down or made clear that they don't. And so now we're having an anti-corruption fiasco, and I frankly don't have a lot of faith in it, because it doesn't like they're not going to go out and actually interview. They'll probably go and interview the normal standard academic who's become basically a gang groupie. They'll probably investigate some of the lawyers who've worked on royal inquiries where they've actually kept the inquiries. But they're only allowed to look at certain things such as the royal inquiry. We'll look at all these aspects of things, but we won't actually be able to have anybody independent saying, well, actually, you need to put this in place, and you need to put these sort of order in place, and you need to make sure that there's checks and balances going on here, because it won't. And so it will be like all the other attempts so far, from the wine box to the Panama to the Paradise Papers. Things occasionally get exposed, always by overseas media, not by our own local media. The government turns around and makes a lip service move, and then everyone falls back to sleep and goes, "Oh, there's no corruption in New Zealand." What a load of rot! So yes, my attitude is yes, we have definitely got corruption definitely happening in the police, and I think that's at a very, very high level. We have got it from immigration at a very, very high level. We have it in customs at a very, very high level. And it's also very disturbing that we also tied into this is that we've got companies like immigration and internal affairs hiring companies like Cob Web Technology to actually go out there and do basically vetting, looking for criminals, and utilize. And it's an irony because they're hiring people to go and spy on normal activists and journalists who are out there rooting for corruption, and they're getting the volume turned down on them. Meanwhile, the people at the top who are guilty of it are basically time and time again being sent to investigate themselves. So I don't see what's going to change until we actually own. I mean, for starters, we need to get rid of the Independent Police Complaints Authority. That needs to be just wiped off the earth. There needs to be a separate body is set up there, which I think there's a valid argument to make sure that there is police presentation on it, if carefully vetted. But effectively, everybody else on that needs to be removed away from the police. And it needs to involve people that have got no links necessarily into any particular government or establishment body who are, as I said, you'll look at the history and profile these people saying, well, wait a minute, you worked on that organisation, so you're not really here to do any real investigation. You're just here to make sure that it doesn't actually go off the script. And that's what the problem is. There is the checks. We don't have checks and balances anymore. So anyway, that's the part 2 of what I said beforehand. If you've got any questions or whatever, leave a comment or whatever you want. If you want to support what I'm doing, reach out, mediadownunder@gmail.com. I'll tell you what it actually entails and so on. But I really, at the end of the day, just do this information because I'm doing my best. I don't expect to be monetized. I don't even expect to be followed. That's, again, we've got the system above where people coming through and deciding to be the fact checkers and gatekeepers and putting a little, oh, no, we don't like that person's IP address. So the actual citizens journalists get set down, and the people that just want to talk nonsense, that's fine. You can say UFO, alien, Illuminati to your heart's content and probably get 18,000 shares. But the moment you start naming names and start naming companies and start giving addresses, you are not going to get you're going to get the volume switch turned on you. And that's just the reality where we're at. So anyway, have a nice day, and there's no corruption in New Zealand. And I think this we will play on the Deadline report, the Fresh FM radio show I play on Friday and Sundays on Fresh FM at 1 p.m. The song will go with There Is No Depression in New Zealand, because it's basically the same thing. A lot of us been kept to the dark and fed a lot of bullshit, just like mushrooms.